Cock Down the Block was a nickname of Doug's in his younger years, just so you know. But
Welcome to the Two Authors Podcast, an entertaining chat show hosted by best-selling mystery and thriller authors Douglas Pratt and Nicholas Harvey, in lively, humorous and informative conversation with distinguished guests who share their thoughts and experience about forging a successful author career.
hello and welcome to the show, brought to you by Vellum, the ultimate formatting solution for your publishing requirements. And hello, Doug.
Hello, Mr. Nick. How are you today?
I'm good. I have a question for you. Did you know that Vellum now has a text feature?
Like I can text it?
You can text the whole program. No, it has, when you format, if your book has the text exchange.
Oh, like, like somebody, my characters are texting each other that you can put a text, like text boxes.
Yeah, like the text box, one's on the left, one's on the right, so it goes back and forth. I was just, I'm in the editing of 3 freaking books right now, and I know you're about doing the same thing, because one of the books we're both doing, it's our book. So I'm in editing hell, which, as you know, I hate. But every time I come across a text thing, I'm like, oh, I've got to remember where that is, because I'm going to format it in the texting thingy.
That'll be really cool. I can't wait to see how that works.
Our guest today is the amazing Amy Ward. So we'll get to that shortly. But first of all, we have a listener question from Josh in Seattle. And his question is, which is a good one, I think, what's your advice for building your reader mailing list when you're getting started?
That is a good question because, and I'm sure you and I will probably say the same thing, mailer list, most important thing you can get when you start out, other than writing the book, I think. The best way, I think, to start it out is back of the book. When I first started, it was just stick a little link in the back of your book for people to click and sign up. And you get a couple. And then you start doing reader magnets, which reader magnets are always good. And you can use another vital program is Book Funnel, which allows you to distribute it. And then people can download your reader magnet, read their little short story, and then sign up for your newsletter. But you'll often get a lot of those freebies who just like to get the free books and then dump off. So what I've found recently, and I know you probably can say the same thing, is this little back of the book bonus chapter or a little bonus story or something that relates to the story you're doing right now. That's not necessarily, maybe like I'll do a little epilogue that doesn't really relate or to the whole story. You don't have to read it. I kind of think of it like those Marvel trailers at the end of the trailer, the little clip at the end.
The little bonus thing they do with a character.
Yeah, right. You don't have to watch it to get to the next book, but it's just something everybody sticks around. So that's kind of the way I like to treat it. And I have found that's been the most beneficial in the last couple of years of building up my newsletter list with people who are interested because they've read the book.
It really does work super well. So you'll hear this a lot, is try and build your newsletter list with organic signups. And that means they come to you because they want to be there, not because you baited them with something free.
Like a reader magnet, yeah.
Like the reader magnets through Book Funnel. So when you're starting out and you're just trying to get the list started, doing some Book Funnel giveaways with other authors and doing newsletter swaps and stuff like that, it's not the worst thing in the world. But most of those people eventually are going to fall off your list. They are the freebie seekers. So Back a Book Bonus really does work really well. They just read your book. If they want to read another chapter of it, it means they like what they read, and now they're on your list. They are your people. So one thing to watch for when you're doing your newsletter, same as your Facebook page, your author page, is your family all wants to be on there, your friends to support you, and all that kind of stuff. When it comes to doing remarketing with using your Facebook and newsletter lists, for Facebook ads, they are going to pollute that list because they are not your ideal readers, most of them, right? So Auntie Ida reads romance but she's supportive as hell and reads all your books. Well, when Facebook sees Auntie Ida on there, who's got 400 followers, and then tries to mimic her because she's on your list, it's going to screw up the algorithm trying to look for people. So just be wary of that. In your newsletter list, what you can do is segment it, and most of them, MailChimp and MailerLite will all let you do that. And those guys have free signups for until you get to a certain number of subscribers, then they go from there. All right, now on to this week's guest, Amy Ward, who is doing very well at writing a fantasy romance under the name AD Award, before changing things up and hitting it big time with her best-selling cheeky curvy girl rom-coms in the Cocky Kingman series.
Cocky Kingman.
See how many times Doug says that word during this show. Let's welcome Amy. Hi, Amy, and thanks so much for coming on the show. How are you?
I'm super great. How are you guys?
Wonderful. Yes. We've been excited about this. So give us a quick overview of how you got into writing and when you were first published.
So I've been writing probably for a little bit more than 15 years. I'm not one of those like writing from the womb type of a people. I came to writing later in life. I was an English as a foreign language teacher and had a lot of downtime. And so I was doing a lot of reading, and then that led into writing. I was like, I have time to write a book. Let's write a book. But then I got serious about it not long after that. And had an eye originally on traditional publishing because I feel like everyone did when they very first started out, because that's how we think the world works, right? But 12-ish years ago, I learned a little bit more about self-publishing. And I was like, this looks fun. I'll just write this book for funsies. And I published that book and it did really well. But once I started self-publishing, I was hooked. And so I've been publishing for about 12 years now. I have a couple of pen names. My 80 award pen name, I write paranormal romances, and I have 50 some odd books in that. And that name has been successful, but I also used a lot of my knowledge from those 10-ish years of publishing to launch a new pen name about 2 years ago. And that one went Banana Pants.
Banana Pants. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. Broke the internet a little bit and changed my life again. And so that's my story to success, I think.
That's very cool. And if anyone's wondering where Banana Pants comes in the scale of things, it's above incredulous, I believe.
Yes, agreed.
Incredulous to Banana Pants. Okay, so that's... But when you level up from Banana Pants, where do you go from there, though?
Yeah, I don't know. Banana shirts? Banana hats?
Look, we're very serious here. Very serious.
Banana hammocks would be more in keeping with your books.
That's true. 100% true.
We'll get to talking about some of those titles in a little bit. So when you did that change and when you went Banana Pants big, you did a strategic shift and went into another genre. You were writing fantasy kind of romance before, right?
Yeah. I was writing fantasy, paranormal romances, dragon shifters, fun times. I have known, even when I was writing paranormal and fantasy, the contemporary romance market is just significantly bigger than just about everything else in the whole wide world. Very strategic to move into contemporary romance specifically, but I wanted to look as well at the niches of contemporary romance that suit me. And that ended up being RomCom.
But even within RomCom, you dug down deeper.
Yeah, agreed. I do sports rom-coms. And then even for another layer of niche, I only write plus size heroines for my heroines. So all of my brand is all around plus size heroines fighting happy ever afters.
Give us the title of your first book.
So the first book in this series is called The Cock Down the Block. There really is a rooster. It really is a rooster in it. His name is Luke Skycocker.
See, I used to have chickens, and I wish I'd have known that name. I would have so named a rooster that.
Rooster's name is Luke Skycocker. He has his little harem of hens, Kylo Hen, Chewbacca, Princess Leia.
So just to pull it back into, there's so many things here. And Cock Down the Block was a nickname of Doug's in his younger years, just so you know. But
that's actually how you find me on the OnlyFans I have going. So
I knew when I was going in, I went pretty cheeky with my titles. I mean, there's some certain things that I have learned along the way. And I went to this really great talk at Romance Author Mastermind 5 or 6 years ago that Whitney G gave. And I've never seen her give it anywhere ever since. So I shared the information that she shared with us back then. She told us there's basically 4 parts of packaging your book. And if you can nail those from the get-go, it does half your marketing for you before you even launch your book. And her 4 parts of packaging were: number 1, your title; number 2, your cover; number 3, your book description, aka your blurb; and number 4, the first 10% of your book. She said if those things are not quite literally gasp worthy, if people don't gasp when they read the title of your book or see the cover, etc., it's not good enough. Work harder. And so that is why I went a little bit crazy, very cheeky with the titles for this series.
Yeah, you can go the way you went, or you can go horror, and then everything in between, you've got to judge the level of gasp you're looking for.
Yes.
Nick, that's a collaboration right there for us. We could do the cock on the dock and still stay in our tropical thriller
See?
range.
There are definitely roosters on Caribbean islands.
Now, because of the title and the innuendo and all that business, and in fact, you don't spell the word out completely, even in the title, right? It brings some problems with Amazon, does it not?
Yeah, it absolutely did. And I didn't really know what kind of problem it was going to create when I did that, because I'd never tried a like my paranormal titles have a little bit of cheek to them, but not quite as cheeky as these. So I will warn everyone in advance. If you use an asterisk in your word, in your title, it makes your book hard to search for on Amazon. So when I first launched Cock Down the Block as Amy Award, that first week, it was not searchable on Amazon. If you typed in COCK down the block, you got not my book. You got some really interesting results that were not my book.
Well, Nick was researching you earlier, and he stayed on it for a long time. I didn't know what he was doing, so.
Yes, that did work against me in the beginning, but I tried to spread the word as well as I could. And I had a pretty good TikTok that a lot of people responded to, where I said, Daddy Bezos is a little bit of a prude and he doesn't like how I have titled my book. So it's way better if you just search for my name if you're looking for my series.
So do you leave the asterisks in there then, or no?
Absolutely. The official titles of the books have the asterisks in them, because if I used the real word, I would end up in what's commonly known as Amazon's dungeon, where it's literally not searchable. Like sometimes maybe like if you type it in now, because the book has been popular enough, it pops right up. But that first week, it was not searchable. Try to avoid asterisks in your titles. But my titles are cheeky enough that Amazon would not let me publish with some of the naughty words.
Can you get away without the asterisks in your blurbs?
I don't actually use the words in my blurbs or in my book descriptions. I'm real careful with the kind of words that go in that, because, again, I don't want to end up in the Amazon dungeon.
Let's go back for a second to this launch, and you launched this book, and there's a couple of things that happened that set it off really big, right? Talk about that, Amy.
So I've given this talk a couple of times about how I think, and I learned part of this from the amazing Becca Syme, there's essentially 4 parts to success of books, but I think that this relates to real life as well. The one that we all wish was the most important, but it's probably not, is the first pillar of success is hard work. You can control, for the most part, except for, things like illnesses or family disasters or whatever. You can, for the most part, control how hard you work to be successful. But it's only one part of the measurement of getting to success. I think the second pillar is what I call skill/talent/experience. Because you can kind of control how much skill you have, because you can take craft classes and learn about marketing, and you can do the things to improve your skills. You've only got so much control over your universe-given talent, but you can develop it if you've got it. And you really can't control how much experience you have. You have the amount of experience that you have. So I controlled real hard how hard I worked. I worked really hard in this series to try to, from the get-go, make it as marketable as it could be, while also still being fun for me and readers. And I've been working on my skills. I have 10 years of experience by the time I published this book, and worked real hard on increasing my God-given skills, or the talent that I had. But then there's 2 factors that are equally as important, but that we don't have a whole lot of control over. And that's frustrating for us in publishing world. The next one you have just a modicum of control over, and it's timing. I know that timing-wise, romance books sell really well in the fall. Plus, also, I wrote a American football romance, and the football season is in the fall. So I'm like, I'm going to launch a football romance book in September. So that was great timing. What I didn't know, that part of the timing, was that Taylor Swift was going to start dating a football player. So football books were popular. I had no control over that timing whatsoever. But then the last one, I think, is the one that people think is the most important, but it's only a quarter of the occasion of all of the things that can lead you to success. And that one's good luck. And we have zero control over that one whatsoever. I had a couple of TikToks that were a little bit viral. Like I had a couple that were around 100,000. My PR company had one that was it went from around 500 to 800,000. But we had a Instagram reel that went to 4 million. And so that catapulted the book into banana pants stratosphere when it launched. And so that luck factor was there. But if I hadn't worked real hard on that book and set up everything that I did and worked really hard on my skills and had the good timing, it wouldn't have been as successful. Like it might have sold for a hot minute with a viral TikTok and a viral reel, but it wouldn't have sustained the way that it did and helped sustain the rest of the series because I've never had a viral TikTok or a reel since then. So that luck factor of that has not carried through, but the sales of the series have definitely carried through.
I'm curious, so when you did the TikTok, and obviously, like you said, you had a viral one, but you haven't had another one since. And this is something that my wife and I have been doing TikToks too. And we're obviously different genres, so it makes a little bit of difference, but there's a lot of different information that kind of comes at you from different ways. So curious, like it's like drinking from a water hose sometimes, isn't it? I guess how much time did you spend developing these reels and these TikToks? And did you have a strategy at all?
My real basic strategy for TikTok is post when I'm launching, and I'm not consistent. I'm a 0% consistent person. And I know there's all the advice out there. You have to post 14 times every single day, whatever. I try really hard to post once a day. And my PR company posts 3 times a week. And then I also pay another girl to post TikToks on another account. And she posts 3 times a week. That's my whole ass strategy. Just post. If you can, just post if you can, because there are a ton of readers and it's free.
It's either your time or it's money. And a lot of authors need to realize that anyway, is that anything you do is either going to be your time or it's your money, and you got to decide which one you want to spend doing it. So.
And I know there's tons and tons and tons of strategies around things like TikToks and Reels, like do the slideshows and make them 32 slides long. And I just get on camera. And I know that's not for everybody, but TikTok likes my face for some reason. So I just get on TikTok and I talk about the book because I write RomCom. I show them the funny things that are in the book. And that is what attracts people to me. A big part of my personal brand is being as authentic as I can. And that's what I do when I'm on TikTok. I just be me.
So a couple of things. I think the point about what to do, when you read all the things about what to do and what's hitting on TikTok and what's doing it, it's done. It's already passed. That's what was happening before, right? They're not calling you up and telling you what hit last night. By the time it filters down to most of us, it's already on. And what happens then is the market is flooding with it, right? It all started with the box opening of books, right? And someone went viral with it. And then 1 million authors opened boxes of books and got 100 views. So, the struck by lightning, having a TikTok or a reel, Instagram reel that hits big, we say it's, you got struck by lightning and it only happens to a few. But the thing is, and this is what I want to talk about more with you, Amy, is if you walk up to the top of the mountain, hold a golf club up over your head, nowhere near some trees, in a lightning storm, you're much more likely to get hit by lightning. And that's what you did, right? So you had issues with Amazon, so you couldn't run Amazon ads. To a certain extent, you've got issues with Facebook, and Facebook ads are really tricky. So you chose some other paths because they were the most open paths for you. But you were so deliberate about what you did in terms of choosing the genre that you wanted to write in, but it was very distinct. You were a sniper with the way you chose all this stuff, right?
I mean, and that is part of that hard work pillar. So I've been thinking about, and this is part of my personal process, I have to think about books, just think about books for literally years before I write them. And you have to figure out what your own process is. Once I sit down and write it, I can write it really fast because I've been thinking about it for such a long time. So I've been thinking about this book / this series for years. But then I got very intentional about how to make this both a book of my heart, but also a book of my readers' hearts. And part of the way that I did that was studying Jennifer Lynn Barnes's information about fandom. So I've been to a couple of presentations of hers, and she's got a good chunk of information on the internet that you can find as well about her theories about fandom. And when I say her theory, she's not just some rando that is like, I think this about fiction. She's used to be a professor of psychology at a university and had a lab that studied fandom. So she really knows what she's talking about. She really, really knows what she's talking about. And so I listened to a couple of her talks about 4 billion times in a row to get some really great nuggets out of it, and then used that very specific information to build the basis of my series. And then it rolls into each of my books. And I think that is part of why, even though I did have some great luck and got a viral reel and some pretty good TikToks, and I mean, I did a lot of things as well as I could, but I think building in that very specific way to help your readers fall in love with your whole world is why the series continues to do well. And it's not just a flash in the pan.
So with this, obviously you're already successful, but then you had this huge banana pants moment.
I want to see T-shirts with this.
It needs to be
I want to
banana
see
pants.
Yellow pants.
I mean, I had to been like, I'm sure it was wonderful. It was probably overwhelming to some extent. Like, what do you think was one of the other biggest surprises that you came out that you were like, I didn't expect that?
Honestly, and I don't think authors talk about this enough, and I think it's actually really important, my relationships with other authors changed significantly. And that was the thing that I did not expect at all. So I'm a big fan of what I call masterminds, where I gather small groups of authors that are usually around the same-ish level as I am in success, and we discuss and talk about things. And I have done that for years and years and years. And I've been through several different masterminds because we all know with publishing, people come and people go. And I have had some pretty well-established masterminds, and it's how I make a lot of my friends. And when this success hit, a lot of people who I thought were author friends basically just stopped talking to me. It was actually really, really hard, and I had to work on it a lot with my success coach and therapy, because I was like, but why? I'm still just me. I just make more money now. But I think in author world, that can be very intimidating to people. Like, nobody hated me or anything, but I did definitely have people within my circles that were like, on one hand, they were like, I don't feel worthy to talk to you anymore.
You should have said, you weren't worthy the first time. So you were lucky to have me then.
Yeah, you were still as worthy as you were, and that
that's
answers
what I tell
everybody.
Nick, every time I see Nick, I'm like, you're not worthy of me.
You're not worthy. I mean, it was a very strange thing that happened. Like, basically, my trust circle shrunk significantly. I think I just want other authors to know that just because you have a friend who does get successful doesn't mean they don't want to still be friends with you. Because, I mean, maybe you're selling one book a month and I'm selling more than that. The comparisonitis for a lot of people is what is so detrimental. I like comparing myself to other authors because it is very motivating to me, because it's like new goals. Like, oh, that author did that, I'm going to try to do that because that's amazing. But for so many people, if you dig into strength stuff at all, with Becca Syme specifically, I have high competition. So it's really good for me to compete with other people. And part of competing with other people is to compare. But there's so many people that don't have that. And that comparisonitis is what kills it for them.
To me, it's always better to who you associate with. You know, my mom always told me that as a kid. Who you associate with is who you kind of are going to emulate. And if suddenly, Nick and I are really good friends. If suddenly he blows up and makes, $10 million next month, he'll probably leave me. But to me, it's about learning. It's about learning about what he's doing differently. And yes, like you said, there is a degree of luck. And I think that a lot of authors don't take that into account. But there's a lot of people who just hit it just right. And that's great. And I don't wish bad on anybody who does that. But I think that I'd take the opportunity to figure out, hey, well, what's Nick doing now that maybe I can take and learn a little bit from. And obviously, you're the kind of person who's going to share that kind of information if people ask you questions. And
yeah, I've always tried really hard to be very, very transparent about how I run my business and what my success is. I, like anybody, like one-on-one or small group, I will absolutely tell anybody exactly how much I make and show them the information, because for some people that helps them understand what needs to happen. And I'm very transparent with how I do my work as well, because when I started out, there just wasn't very much information. There weren't a lot of millionaire authors saying, this is how I did that. And I wanted to know. So I try really hard to share what I have learned with people so that, and I'm not saying everybody can emulate it because our publishing is weird and we all get to the bananas in different ways.
So all this happens and you've got to cope with it, this onslaught, and there's your to-dos and obligations and everything goes through the roof. How did you work your way through that? And did you enlist help?
Yeah. So I would say for about the first month, the book hit the top 100 and then it kept going lower and lower and lower and lower in the ranks. And I'm like, but I'm not doing anything to make that happen. That was where the hard work part, like I had done all of the hard work, but then I thought it would have to continue to work really hard. And honestly, the book just kept getting bigger and bigger all by itself with some momentum because other people were talking about it and other people were posting about it because of the hard work that I had put in telling a story. So for that first month, it was really just sort of frantic. I don't even know what to do. I'm just going to like cry a lot because it's so exciting. And I'm going to like have some chocolate cake. It was like a banana birthday cake tsunami that first month. And I think that is okay because I think a lot of people like they get some sort of success and they're like, how do I capitalize on this? Kind of you just ride that wave at the beginning. But then I absolutely had to very quickly build bigger systems than what I already had, or I would be overwhelmed by the tsunami of bananas. And it was overwhelming on its own.
So this is your book 1, right, in this series. So when you got to book 2, how did you feel about going into that one? Like, what was that? Is it daunting? Was it like, oh?
Yeah, at first I couldn't write it. So my very original plan was to do a rapid release of this series because I knew from past experience, rapid release worked great. But with the tsunami of everything that was coming at me with the success of book 1, I legitimately did not have time or mental space to write book 2. My intention was to put out book 1 in September and book 2 in November and book 3 in January, etc. And book 2 did not come out until the following, I think, February, because I did not have the mental space nor the time to write it. But that actually turned out to be fine, which I think we all feared that because there's a lot of messaging out there about put out as many books and create your backlist as fast as you can. But also there's something to be said for selling the book that you have.
Well, there's a reason why traditional puts them out every year, 18 months, and has great success with their successful authors doing that, right? There's a big wave. There's a lot of momentum that comes when you hit that top 100. I mean, you're in a position, you're writing a book that you can't advertise on Amazon, yet when you're in the top 100, Amazon is selling the shit out of your book for you. You're in every also boughts, you're in every letter they send out, right? And that's something I think that's important to understand about this industry. The bigger you get, the bigger you can get, because these things start going with you. And it happens at different stages when from very early on. But what happens is the wave gets bigger, right? So when you hit, I don't know, let's call it 10 grand a month in sales, then you're riding a bigger wave on your books in the Amazon system, if you're in the Amazon system or the wide system. And then when you go bigger than that, the wave's bigger and lasts longer. Is that right?
I mean, the bottom line is they want to make money too. If you're giving them a product that is making money, they're like, ooh, let's make more money with it. And they just show it to more people. It's just how the system works.
It's a lot like those, they talk about the billionaires who like they just make money just sitting there. It starts building up. It's just going to keep going until it, I guess at some point it might run out of steam, but I doubt it. I imagine it just keeps going.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely the momentum engine there for sure. So while I had originally planned to do rapid release, it just didn't work out that way, which was fine. But that gave me some time to put together some systems so that I could continue like this. So I very, very quickly got an accountant who specializes in authors. And that has helped a lot because that worry is off of my brain. I don't really know that much beyond how to file a 1040 on gov.gov or whatever it is, right? I don't really know that much about it, but my accountant does. And I can call her and be like, can I write off my trip to Europe, whatever the thing is. And so she's been really, really helpful with all of that. And then I had a PA, but I got another PA who also has worked for other authors who very successful. And so she had her own systems set up that were things that I was like, I don't even know I should have that. Yes, let's do that.
Well, you don't know what you don't know.
I definitely didn't know what I didn't know about a lot of things. So I think that it's really important to rely on the author world that is out there anyway, because I got both of those as referrals from someone else. When they saw the need that I had, and they're like, oh, I know an accountant that specializes in authors. I will share her information with you. Oh, I know a PA who needs more hours, who really knows what she's doing. I will share her information with you. So when you need those things, because I had to build my systems real fast. 80 Award on her own was already a 6-figure author. And so I had some very basic systems, but not what I needed for this. And so I'm very grateful to the author world for helping me find all of these other things.
It's a generous world. I was incredibly fortunate when I got involved and knew nothing, that I ran across some people that was super helpful. And there's more people
that
out
wasn't
there.
Me, by the way. So.
Yeah, it wasn't Doug. I didn't know him. Yeah. There's the Doug period where everything went to shit for a year or so. But there's plenty of people out there, and we kid, but Doug's very generous with his time with other authors that are getting started. And there's a lot of people that like to pay it forward.
Yeah, there really are. And I feel like there pretty much always has been, but there's more information available now than there about how to be a successful author than there has ever been ever.
Yeah, because like you started 12 years ago. So like around that time, because I was publishing then too, like there was nobody talking about it. Like there was a few groups, nothing big, no 20 books, none of these big.
Yeah, no, I mean, I got a lot of my information back in the day from the old Romance Writers of America, but at the time they were super slow to change. And so they weren't big fans of self-publishing when it very first started up. But there were a handful of workshops, and I went to those, and that's where I first started learning information about self-publishing. But honestly, I think until about when 20 Books first started, and I joined it in the early days, there wasn't really that many people talking about how to make money publishing. And I think that changed the conversation as well. And now a lot of people are talking about how to make money, thus more people can make money.
We do have one more question that we ask everybody. Basically is, what do you think is your author superpower?
Mine is that I have 1 gajillion ideas all of the time. And so I can just kind of reach up into the air and pluck one down. But then with that idea, I can make it into my brand and the kind of story that I tell for the kind of readers that are attracted to me. And it's taken a long time, but I have learned how to not care about the readers who are not my readers. I can take that idea, turn it into what my readers want, and it's okay if it is not for everybody. I get very laser focused in on what is the best path. I'll talk a tiny bit again about Becca Syme with the strengths. I'm a number 1 strategic. And the way that I explain that in publishing world is if you have high strategic, publishing is this big, wide, dark forest. And if you have strategic, you have a flashlight. And so you can use your flashlight to see the paths and choose the right path that is for you. But if you are a number 1 strategic, you have flashlight eyes and you can see all the paths and you can see exactly which way to go. That is the best because strategic is best. If you don't have strategic, just find a strategic friend because they can see all of your paths also.
Hey, Amy, you want to be a friend?
Yes, absolutely. I would love to see your paths and tell you, please go down that one. But I will also say that as a high strategic person, when you don't go down the path I told you to go down, it makes me really mad.
The other thing you have to know about Doug is he lies, because that was not the last question, because we have another question that we ask everyone.
As soon as I said it that I was wrong.
You lied. We're going to spin a wheel, and we have a wheel of questions that we move and change.
Okay, so if you could spend 6 months in another country living and writing, where would you choose?
I would be really hard pressed to only stay in one country. We'll talk about strengths one more time. All of my strengths are the new and different seeking strengths. So I thrive on change. And so maybe I could pick a continent and doodle around.
Go for it. What continent would you pick then?
I've lived abroad several times. And so I would probably end up spending some time in Eastern Europe because it's one of my favorite places in the world. It's got this very, cosmopolitan European flavor, but it's cheaper.
Amy, this has been absolutely brilliant. I wish we could have hours and hours and hours to listen to what you have to say. We really appreciate it, and our listeners will appreciate it. And congratulations on being mega banana pants.
Thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, that didn't disappoint.
No, not at all.
What a lovely lady, and what a great story.
It's great to see how people succeed in general, and I think she would have just gotten lucky. It's easy to say luck could play into it. She got a really good TikTok, but if you're building a career out of luck, it's going to be tough.
If you bang a book together and then run a bunch of TikToks or Instagram reels, and your whole strategy is based upon one of these is going to hit big and I'm going to go huge, you are going to fail probably 1 million times to 1.
Well, but and let me assure you that, and you've had this conversation with new authors. I've had this conversation with new authors. I had one today with somebody online about it. They don't have any idea except that that's going to be the way. It's just going to be that. It's simply, I can put out some TikToks, I can put out a reel, and that's going to make it. And it's tough.
It really is. And the thing with Amy is she was making a living writing books. Her fantasy romance series was doing great. She was making money, making a living, solid. Okay. And she was at that level, full-time author, making a living. And she put these building blocks in place to make that better, right? She branched out, she veered off, and she was absolutely deliberate in what she chose for a genre. She identified the tropes. She did all the hard work, and she wrote a really good book that was going to do really well. That new series, take all the Instagram reels and TikTok out of it, it was going to increase her income, and she was going to do really well with that series because she put everything in place. The fact that it went as ballistic as it went so quickly, that was the bit of luck that was sprinkled over it, right? She got lucky, but she did all the work behind that. It was going to be good anyway.
She talked about those 4 pillars, and I think that's an important thing, and any new author needs to think about that, it is the title, the cover, the blurb.
First few pages for the look inside.
First 10%. Yeah, those are important. And there's too many people who think they just throw out there with a cover they made in Word. They don't even bother with Canva. It's like, it takes a little bit more to get into it. And I think that's important. You have to have those pillars, those building blocks to start. And then you'll have something that when luck grabs hold, that helps. And it gives you a little more boost. So, and she had a shitty cover and her title wasn't awesome, like Hawk Down the Wall. I think that only counted as 5. You said early on, how many times did I say it? I kept it too much down.
You were pretty tame. I thought you were going to be throwing them out there all over the place, but you kept it in your pants. All right, we should probably move on at this point. Great time to mention our sponsor. Hey, guys, Vellum.
Well, they were our sponsor.
Thanks for being on board. Thank you very much to Vellum. Thank you for supporting us. We do appreciate it. We appreciate all the listeners tuning in. Check out the show notes because you'll have a link to Vellum, or you can write this down real quick. You ready? Tryvellum.com/2authors. Did you get that? It's in the show notes, so you can find it at a reasonable pace. Yeah, no one can understand me anyway. So the show notes also have all the stuff for Adie Ward and Amy Ward, so you can go get your cock on the block and look for new episodes every 2 weeks. Until next time, be cool to each other.
Fair winds and following seas.
You've been listening to the Two Authors podcast with Nicholas Harvey and Douglas Pratt. Subscribe on your favorite platform for alerts on new shows coming every 2 weeks.